All right, today we're tackling a big one, weight loss. But I want you to forget everything you think you know about it. We're going to look at a method that promises something pretty amazing, total freedom from dieting. And it all starts by asking one simple question. What if willpower has nothing to do with it?
Does this sound familiar? That feeling of just trying so hard, using every last drop of your willpower, only to end up feeling totally exhausted and defeated. It's like you're a slave to the diet, and it's just draining you bit by bit.
But here's a wild thought. What if the problem isn't you? What if it's not about a lack of willpower at all? What if the whole system of dieting is actually designed to fail right from the very beginning? Okay, so first up, let's talk about why diets are, well, pretty much doomed to fail. Because you gotta understand the problem before you can find a real solution, right? I'm sure most of us know this one all too well. It's the yo-yo effect. You know how it goes. You cut back on everything, you feel totally deprived, maybe you lose a few pounds, but that feeling of deprivation, it just builds and builds until you can't take it anymore, you break, and you gain it all back, sometimes even more. It is a miserable roller coaster to be on. And this is really the heart of the problem. Diets are built on something that's just not built to last, willpower. See, willpower is a finite resource. It's like a battery that just runs down. And the moment you tell yourself you can't have something, what does your brain do? It wants it more than ever. It becomes this precious, forbidden treasure. Failure isn't just an option. It's basically built into the system.
Okay, so if willpower isn't the real issue, then what is? Well, the answer is probably not what you're expecting. It's got less to do with self-control and a whole lot more to do with addiction.
And the origin story for this whole method is pretty wild. It comes from a guy named Carr. And he wasn't a nutritionist or a doctor. He was a chain smoker. We're talking 100 cigarettes a day. And when he figured out how to quit, easily, without using willpower, he had this huge aha moment. He realized the psychological trap he'd been in. It wasn't just about smoking. And when you put them side by side, the connection is just, wow, it's undeniable. Think about it. With both, there's this illusion of pleasure, right? Which is immediately followed by this wave of guilt. There's that same awful sense of helplessness, like you're not in control. Both cause very real physical harm. And both leave you with that exact same feeling of being a slave to something. It's the same trap.
So this all leads to a really powerful shift in thinking. What if overeating isn't some personal failing? It's not about being weak or lacking self-control. What if it's just an addiction? An addiction to junk food and processed sugar that works in a very similar way to a nicotine addiction. Framing it that way changes everything. It takes the blame off of you and puts it where it belongs, on the addictive nature of certain foods.
So you might be wondering, how did a chain smoker make this leap to weight loss? Well, the big breakthrough didn't happen in some fancy lab. It happened right in his own backyard. So Carr is just watching this squirrel eating some peanuts he left out. But then the squirrel does something that just stops him in his tracks. It eats a few, and then it just stops, and it starts burying the rest for later. And that sparked this huge question in his mind. How can this tiny little animal just know when to stop, while humans, the most intelligent species on the planet, struggle so much? And if you need proof, just look at this. It's really staggering. In the entire animal kingdom, you find basically zero overweight wild animals, 0%. Yet for humans in the developed world, it's over half of us. That is not a coincidence. That is a giant clue.
So what's the secret? It's so simple. Instinct. That squirrel and every other wild animal has this built-in guide. Their bodies just know what to eat, when to eat, and when to stop. And here's the thing. We have that exact same guide. We're just the only species on Earth that lets our thinking, our intellect, get in the way and shout over it.
So, why? Why do we ignore our own instincts? Well, according to this method, it's because of a lifetime of what the source calls brainwashing. Let's dig into how that works.
So this brainwashing, it's the constant conditioning we get from pretty much everywhere. I mean, from the moment we're born, the food industry, advertisers, even our own family traditions are all programming us to believe that junk food equals pleasure, that it's a treat, a reward, something you deserve.
I mean, just stop and think about it for a second. Are those favorite foods of yours really your choice, or were they just the ones with the catchiest jingles? Do you eat because you're actually hungry, or just because the clock says it's noon? Restaurants and packages tell us how much to eat. Our cravings are literally triggered by commercials. We've handed over all the control.
So how do you fight back against all this noise?
You have to reconnect with what this method calls nature's guide. You can think of it like the original user manual that every creature, including us, is born with. It's that inner wisdom that animals never stopped listening to.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? How do you start listening to that guide again? Well, let's get into the actual principles, and you'll see they are incredibly simple.
All right, principle number 1. And this is so simple, it's almost revolutionary. Eat when you're hungry. That's it. You know, we're taught to be afraid of hunger, to prevent it at all costs. But that's all wrong. Hunger isn't your enemy. It's the signal that actually makes food taste good. It's the source of all the pleasure in eating.
And principle number 2 is just as important. Stop when you're satisfied, not when you're stuffed. And there is a huge difference, right? I mean, when you're thirsty, you drink some water, and when you're not thirsty anymore, you just stop. You don't force yourself to finish the whole bottle. It's the same exact logic with food. We just have to relearn how to hear that off switch.
So, how do you find that off switch? How do you listen? You do what an animal does. You use your senses. Like, really look at your food. Scrutinize it. Smell it. What does it actually smell like? And when you eat, taste it. Consciously. Don't just inhale it while watching TV. When you start paying attention like this, you'll feel that exact moment your hunger vanishes.
And this is the incredible promise of the whole method. Eat as much of your favorite foods as you want, whenever you want, as often as you want, and be the exact weight you want to be. You see, it's not about restriction at all. It's the total opposite. It's about getting back in sync with your body so you can finally enjoy food without the guilt, without the struggle, and just naturally become the weight you're supposed to.
And that leaves us with one last, really powerful thought to chew on. We've been told our whole lives that junk food, that processed stuff, is our favorite. It's the treat. But what if that's the biggest lie of all? What if your true favorite foods, the ones your body actually craves, are the ones that make you feel incredible, full of energy, healthy, and genuinely happy? What would change for you then?